Ashley Montagu called her work a benchmark in the history of civilization. Joseph Campbell, in his foreword to The Language of the Goddess, writes of the evident relevance of her work to the universally recognized need in our time for a general transformation of consciousness. Numerous writers, scholars, and artists have been inspired by her decoding of the symbolic language of the life-affirming, nature-celebrating, earth goddess religion of the Aboriginal Europeans. The findings that Dr. Gimbutas has unearthed and documented with meticulous scholarship have revolutionary implications for our time. Her work gives us hope because she shows that we do not have to learn something new. We only need to remember that which we have tragically forgotten. Her life and career is a fascinating story in itself. Born in Lithuania in 1921, she absorbed in childhood something of the reverence for life and nature of her Baltic ancestral culture. As Europe descended into the nightmare holocaust of fascism and World War, she fled with her family from bomb raids, invasions, and total social collapse. She struggled with enormous financial hardship to pursue her education and her very independent line of research in Europe and in the United States. Settling down to a professorship at UCLA in 1963, she embarked on her archaeological and prehistorical research focused on the cultures of the Neolithic Old Europe. She has written over 200 articles and more than 10 books, including studies of the Balts, the Slavs, the Bronze Age cultures of Central and Eastern Europe, and goddesses and gods of Old Europe. Her magnum opus, The Language of the Goddess, appeared in 1989. There is something here of what Carl Jung called synchronicity, an almost uncanny coming together of individual vision and collective destiny. This year, in which Marija Gimbutas' work has gained such a wide audience in the West, is also the time in which the people of this same area of Eastern Europe that she has written about and the peoples of her own country of origin are throwing off the shackles of totalitarian oppression and peacefully moving toward a more egalitarian political structure. Please listen carefully to the words of this wise woman of the Baltic lands. She has a most important message for our time.
Ladies and gentlemen, archaeological record shows that the most ancient religion of humankind was goddess religion. I'm sorry to tell that we do not find father image in very early prehistory. Erich Neumann, an eminent psychologist, has hypothesized that it has to be a pair, ur-father and ur-mother, in the very beginning. But we do not find any material to support the hypothesis. And why? I think it's quite natural that the earlier society was a matrilineal, mother's society, and not patrilinear. And for a very long time, we do not find evidence for the understanding of the biological production of the father's role in the biological production. The copulation was not understood. Even surprisingly, in the early historic times, we still find evidence that this was a matrilinear society in old Europe, especially in the areas which were not Indo-Europeanized. Even Etruscans in Italy still mentioned that boys are mother's sons. On tombstones we have this evidence. So here we have a matrilinear society in probably the very long time of the Paleolithic, the Old Stone Age, which continued into the Neolithic, which is the early agricultural society. And it then continued in some areas in the Bronze Age, especially in the Minoan culture of Crete and other islands. Now, we should ask the question, if there was the goddess religion, how old was it? Do we know the beginnings? Yes, I would guess it is not 10,000 years, not 20,000, not 30,000. It's much more. We actually cannot answer today the question, when is the beginning? Maybe it is 1 million years. But this we shall leave for the future. But we can see already today that the Acheulean culture, the lower Paleolithic culture, which goes down to 500,000 and more, has produced many flint figurines, tiny figurines, which are already symbols, triangles and mother images holding babies, and also animal figures. And this is already a hope that we shall be able to decipher these early objects. But today we shall focus on the period which is the Neolithic, the early agricultural period, which started in Europe in the 7th millennium BC and continued throughout the 7th, 6th, 5th, even the 4th and 3rd millennia in some areas like Western Europe, where Neolithic started later than in the Southeast. This period is so rich, full of finds of especially sculptures and tiny figurines. I call figurines which are really miniature ones, say between 2 or 3 centimeters and 20 centimeters high. And then we have certainly sculptures, life-size sculptures of animals and even human beings, but they rarely survived. Then, in addition, in the Neolithic, there is pottery. The discovery of pottery is very important for the study of symbolism, because vases were decorated, incised or painted, and these decorations are not just geometric motifs. They are meaningful. They are symbols. They are extended symbols. In the beginning, there was a symbol, and then it was extended, and the vase was decorated around. And then there are temples, there are temple models, there are all sorts of cult objects found in temples. So all this is our basic material for the interpretation of the early religion. I would like to say that it's not only the object that is of importance, and we do not look at the object with the eyes of an art historian. It is of utmost importance to know how the object was found. Was the sculpture or figurine found in a temple? Was it found in a courtyard? Was it found in a grave or in a cave? All that counts. This cannot be omitted from our study. However, even that would not explain the functions of the goddess. To a certain degree, yes, but we need something else to add to be sure that our interpretation is right. Then we have to see what kind of goddess is portrayed. Is she nude, or is she dressed? Is she stiff, or is she with breast and belly and buttocks? And there are, of course, a variety of them. It is a tremendous variety of images. The types are numerous. It is not just one goddess that we can describe and say she portrays something. No, there are hundreds of images, but we can classify them. We can classify according to their postures. Are they sitting on a throne? Are they standing? Are they found engraved in a very stiff position? And then one more thing is, I think, decisive for the understanding or for the decipherment, what they are meaning and what are the functions. These are the incisions or paintings of symbols. And what are the symbols? I should classify them into at least three major groups. They are abstract or hieroglyphic, such symbols like a V, an M, X, Y, and others. The second group would be representational, and this includes such symbols like breasts, eyes. They are appearing on some tombs or ceramic objects, like separate symbols like eyes or breasts or buttocks or vulvas. All these are representational. And then the last category are animals. The goddess appeared as a human being, and she also appeared as an animal, a bear or deer or pig or any other animal like dog or fox or boar. And all these categories are intertwined. We cannot have borderlines between them. They are all interrelated. And this is because in ancient times, it was a different, completely different world of ideology, of thinking, when there was a very close tie between the human beings and animals and inanimate objects. And the goddess could be a tree, a stone, an animal, and a human being. So we are dealing with a holistic thinking. This was a period when we were not separated from nature. Now I would like to start with the slides, because then I can show you the categories of symbols, which are many. And we shall begin with the goddess, whom I call the bird goddess. This is a sculpture about maybe 25 centimeters high, and she is a hybrid between woman. She is definitely a woman with developed breasts, has a very long cylindrical neck, and then her head is particularly interesting here because she has a beak, a protruding nose, but no mouth. She has eyes, she has a headdress, a turban maybe, or just her hair neatly combed.